Hi, in this video I'm going to cover a few examples with relation to computer properties. We'll try to cover some lifecycle hooks too. So before that, let me get started. So in order to use computer properties, the computer properties are a special type of properties that can do on the fly computational logic. So they are dependent on reactive properties or the reactive state, like for example ref. So if a property, a data property that is a ref based on ref, computed property is a good candidate to use against it. So for example, now I first create a comprop, which is a computed property. So you need to reference the computed keyword. So now you're writing a function. So that function should return the computed logic or the end result of the computed logic. So now I'm going to keep this very simple. Just say return, because this is a method. It's written in a method style, although it's called a computational property. It does the computation on data properties, and so that makes it need a data property. So we'll use the message dot value plus, let's keep this very simple, just add a suffix, that's all. So now our computational property is ready. So in order to see this in action, first I need to create a element with V model, and that is bound to our data property. Now remember, this data property is dependent on the computational property. So now what I'm going to do is first show this data property in the UI. So we are just following the same method to show any data property. So this input element or the HTML element is bound to the data property, and the data property, because it has a V model, uh, the input element is reflecting those changes in the MSG data property, and that straight away will be visible in the DOM because we have added this here. So that's the reason you can see then and there. So if I add hello one, anything here, it gets reflected because it has a two-way binding here to here and here to there. So that is visible in the UI. So now let's go to the computational property. Now I'm going to just add comprop. So comprop is a computational property, and we already have some changes there, so that should fire, and add suffix. Yes, it does. So I had hyphen, so you can see the changes directly getting reflected. So computer property has a lot of advantages, like you can see the speed here, but apart from that, if something is cached, it doesn't recalculate. So it has that, it is smart in terms of doing only necessary calculations and loading the DOM or things like that. While we are here, let's cover the other part, which is lifecycle hooks. So there are a few important hooks like on, before, mount, then on updated. You have the order is on, before, mount, on, mounted, although it doesn't matter because you're just adding the reference here, but then you'll add the actual logic inside, so it doesn't matter how you add it here. So anyway, on, before, update. So now on mount is a lifecycle hook which gets fired. In other words, you can add your logic here, but you have to write like how you write a method. So I'm just going to console log to see when this gets fired. So I'm just going to add a console.log of before mode. So the same thing is applicable for the other hooks to see when they get fired on mounted. So this happens when the component is actually completely mounted to the application, or in other words the DOM element is all ready. So everything is loaded to the app and the component is ready, so you can manipulate any DOM elements in this particular hook. So this will say mounted, and then you have on before update. So on before update is very interesting. It happens before the update in terms of when you update the UI elements, or in other words your data properties are getting updated. So if you enter something here, so that is the time when your updated should get fired. On before update, and then updated should get fired. So I say before update, and then say the same thing for on updated, on updated. So this is okay. So now anytime you make a change in your code, that will fire on before mount and mounted. Let's see that in action. Say for example, I make this hello one, that's a change to the code. So you can see a flicker now. You should see a flicker, yes. So that fired before mount. At before mount, at that point, the DOM elements are still not loaded. But then at mounted state, they are all loaded. So you can manipulate your DOM elements at that point. If you have any JavaScript logic, you can write there. But if you see now after this, because the component is all mounted, it's all there, until unless you make changes to the code or the templates, that's when on before mount and mounted will get fired. But if you make changes to the data properties, like for example you add some content, let's clear this, let's see that one more time. I just remove this totally, so that fires your before update and updated. So I make a code change, again it should reload my DOM. Yes, so all the things fire. So that's the main thing. So I just make a change here, it calculates and finds very smartly that the component is loaded. I'll just update the DOM elements. I'm updating the DOM element, so that's why it's not loading the whole component or mounting the component. So that's all. Hope this was useful. Thank you.